So what does your faith look like on a daily basis like today? How does it impact you? On
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, on a daily basis, the way it impacts me is it guides my purpose for being here on this planet. Um, I think when we're younger, we're not really sure what that's for. We don't know why we're here, and even when we're older, a lot of people until they die, they don't know why they're here. But after they die and they transition from this life to the next one, they figure it out pretty quickly. That's revealed to us, I believe.
sure.
And so it's I don't know how anyone or it would certainly be difficult to go through this life experience that we're having here in this three-dimensional world where we're living. um, it would be difficult to go that through that experience without a true sense of purpose. I'm the opposite of a nihilist. I certainly am not a person who thinks this is all for nothing and we should just end it now. I mean, that's the definition of a nihilist. I'm the opposite of that. I mean, we're here for a very, 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 very specific purpose. And um and we and i and I think that all of us are sort of on this journey that's designed to teach us contrast, um, because there's good and bad in the world. So those are two contrasting points, and we're here to figure out what or how we're supposed to make our contribution to the world. And so my faith has made that crystal clear for me, and that makes getting up every day and doing what I do not a burden. It's a very exciting thing.
Are there habits that you have every day, like in your faith? I mean, I'm sure it incorporates praying and reading, but what does that look like just on a tangible basis?
Yeah, certainly praying and reading. I mean, I get up pretty early. I always have. Not that that's necessarily, I don't know how virtuous that is. It's just that's something I've always kind of done. But also, I turn in fairly early, so I don't know if it's that big a deal. But I get up pretty early, and I spend a fair amount of time. I mean, the first 3 hours of the day is just me, just the creator, my dogs, and a lot of times I'll walk in the woods here on our property. We have a pretty nice property. It's 111 acres in southern Indiana. All the colors are beautiful right now, and so I've got trails all over that, and I go walks. I take walks on that with the dogs, and I just take in creation and do my, let's say, my mind clearing and my praying during that time.
That's awesome. About 10 months ago, I started getting up early, and I think the Lord was leading me. And this was just part of my story of just really getting back to being the person that He's called me to be in my calling. Like you're saying, it's a very high
Mm-hmm.
calling, which I think we're both part of a kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
right? That our leader, he chose to serve rather than to be served. And that's why he's different than any other God. All other gods love to be served, and religion loves to be served, but our example, he didn't need to be served, so he came and served people, and that's even why I'm doing this podcast, is really to serve other people, the conversations that they need to hear,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully serving you and fleshing out some parts of your life that are going to bless many people. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but the morning thing, I'd heard this before, that it's kind of like the manna that went out in the morning that fed Israel. That's like
Mm-hmm.
angels' food, and it was
Mm-hmm.
only there in the morning, and then the sun like made it disappear. And so there may be some aspect to that morning time and collecting and having, so that you have this food, this nourishment to feed yourself and feed your family. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that conclusively, but it's just something interesting.
I don't know. For me, it's the most noble part of the day. It's where everything is new and everything is fresh, and we sort of reset everything for another 24 hours, and you get to take another run at it, and
I like that.
do things to fulfill your mission here and God's mission for us while we're here.
Yeah. I Totally agree. What do you think the fruit is of being able to take that time? And you got kind of a special circumstance with that nice property, but what's
Hmm.
the fruit of it, do you think, in your life?
It's a blessing for sure. The fruit of it is the first thing that comes to mind, Jeff, really is just is clarity, because we have so much coming at us. I mean, we have so many inputs. This digital society, this digital world we live in. If you think about, just 100 years ago, and in the historical timeline is just a blip. I mean, like a blip of time. But 100 years ago, what, it would have been 1922. 200 years ago, it would have been 1820. I mean, the world was so different then. Even in the 90s, we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah,
Just
true.
just a couple decades ago, it was just a while back. I mean, I grew up in the peak of my career, or at least the early part of my career. We didn't have cell phones. You had to pull over and find a payphone and stand there in the freezing cold and put quarters in the darn thing. And so that seems archaic to most people now, but I remember it like it was just a minute ago. And but we have so much technology and we have so many inputs that we just need to have some time where we're as close to the dirt, the earth, as we possibly can be, and take away all of those stimulus, those stimulating things, and just focus on the creation around us. We've all had I think, at least I know I have, we've had these experiences where, I don't know what you would call these. I think there's a term for it, but we've had these experiences where, maybe we've had a brush with death. You're on a motorcycle and you just narrowly escaped a 18 wheeler, and if timing had been a nanosecond away, you would have been dead. You know, and all of a sudden the reality of that just sort of, and the weight of it just sort of comes down on you, and everything else that you've been worried about or thinking about or concerned about, it just poof, it just disappears, and you're so alive and in the moment, right there, that you're not distracted, and you have complete clarity about who you are, and you feel and sense the awe and the awesomeness of the world we live in and the creation that we're a part of. But then it only lasts a few moments, and then all of a sudden someone honks their horn, or the phone rings or whatever, and then you're thrust back into that flow of everyday life again. So I think going to those places, take a walk in a park, or anything like that, put your phone away and your computer away. I think it helps us to get closer to that, and you can even recreate it if you practice it and focus on it a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds so true. I know there's something you said that it kind of something I've been thinking about is, why do things or experiences, like, they're kind of fleeting, like you just said. So, like, the moments of bliss or clarity, um, I don't know. I've experienced that as you were telling that
Mm-hmm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely experienced that, and it's fleeting. But you're kind of saying that at least you're, I don't know, in the mornings able to go on a walk and just get back to clarity. And it's not high mountain peak moments in life, but it's just a good reset every morning.
Yeah, I'm an amateur meditator. I mean, the amateur of amateur meditators. Um, you know, through through prayer and meditation, both. Now they're different, um, and they are both very beneficial and very powerful. But I grew up only knowing and thinking about just prayer, which is a conversation with our Creator, and but meditation is different. It's just completely being quiet and in the presence of our Creator. It's not having a conversation. It's being quiet and being in the presence of, and even and that then sort of brings on this feeling of awe that you get whenever you do have that brush with death, because those brushes with death, maybe those are divinely orchestrated, maybe they're not, but
Oh, they are.
th- I believe they are.
Yeah.
I choose to believe those are divinely orchestrated events,
Yeah.
and they're designed. They have a purpose for us, and they certainly get our attention. And if nothing else, that's what it does. And it reminds us of how fragile living is, how fragile our life is, how temporary this assignment is that we're on here. And, and how important it is to focus on the right things. And, my favorite verse in the Bible is, what is it? Philippians 4:8, where you're focusing all things that are good and praiseworthy and things like that. I was just on LinkedIn right before hopping on, this interview here with you. And I happened to see a post about a young man who took his life, and it was a picture of him in tears sitting in his car. And it was the last picture of him before he took his life.
Sad.
And, and there was a description about he was $20,000 in debt. And there was these other things he was struggling with, but it seemed to be all financial. It wasn't like he was going through a divorce or anything. And, I don't mean to make light of anything. I certainly don't intend to do that, but isn't it amazing how we can allow our thought life to spiral out of control to the point where $20,000 in debt is worth taking your life? Now, I'm sure there's a whole lot more to that story, but that was all that was revealed. And so let's assume that's really it. That's so tragic. It's tragic no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's so important that we're focusing on the right things. And that verse in Philippians is to me the thing that I go back to when my thinking and my head trash gets in the way, and I need to push it out of the way.
If you like that clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. If you want to watch the entire interview, click right here.